Ladies and gentlemen of the crypto space, we're live on a Monday, April 17th at 11:30 a.m. Today's an interesting day. The SEC is bringing more lawsuits against Bittrex. I mean, come on. What are we what are you pulling up like the most well, it was big back in the day and it's just not since, but they're really pulling out they're not pulling any punches. What a ridiculous situation this entire global regulatory pissing match, and everyone's trying to carve out a name for themselves, and well, everyone's trying to protect the status quo. It's just ridiculous after ridiculous. Two ridiculous things that I've encountered. Bitlord just retweeted it. You can't hear it, but this is Gensler basically throwing his friend from MIT, Sylvia, under the bus from Algorand. What a ridiculous behavior. How is that even remotely reasonable? I just continuously flabbergasted the shit that I encounter with their choices, their actions. It's not about fair, it's about just awkward at this point. So Paul's talking about having to access a variety of DeFi protocols using VPN. Sure. And now they have legislation where you're going to go to jail for 10,000 years for using a VPN to access the banned piece of software. Who's going to ban what? Who's going to be making these choices that who can access what and for what purpose? And then the title of today's stream is, what DeFi do you like? Which DeFi, US, British, or Australian DeFi? That seems to be still, and I'm going to continue on this train of thought, that folks think relative to the country they're in. So it's like US DeFi. Are you using US DeFi where these regulations matter? Why do they matter? Why do these regulations even matter? What matters is access. What matters is, sure, there's complexity with regard to VPN. If they, in the next 5,000 years, execute some law where DOJ and local law enforcement agencies literally say, you can't do this, and if you do this, there's consequences. That's the only restriction a person has, is if there's actual physical consequence. But if anything comes from a financial regulator, that means nothing from a consumer standpoint. That means things from an enterprise standpoint. But we deal in the world of DeFi, which isn't an enterprise. There is no business. There is no employees. There is no reporting. There's no tax reporting. There's no nothing, because there is no business. It's people are thinking in terms of traditional enterprise. Sure, I talk in terms of enterprise, but certainly not traditional enterprise where you have a store, a building, a tax ID, uh, a bank account. These pieces of software are not in a country. There's no USDFi. Ridiculous, ridiculous bias or short-sightedness that the population of DeFi consumers, I believe, has. It's not British DeFi. It's not Australian DeFi. It's software in cyberspace. It cannot be shut down. It's like the whole Skynet spiel. And then you have folks that'll argue their Bitcoin versus Ethereum narrative and how Ethereum has such an incredible attack surface. Oh, that's such a shame that that narrative still floats around from the Bitcoin maximalists, and it hurts so many people. It's unfortunate because what matters is what we talk about, is owning enterprise. Enterprise is the superior form of financial savings. You don't want to save money. What you want to do is own a business. And that is a form of savings because you have capital that you've worked for. And because of that capital, you own an enterprise, so that works. That is the superior form of savings, owning enterprise. So what I love to do is to peer through the bullshit that there is no US DeFi, that we are owning enterprise that exists in cyberspace across all countries, spanning all regulatory jurisdictions. And that's how you save money, by owning things that pay you optimally on a weekly basis. And sure, from a from an enterprise perspective, Paul, yeah, they're probably in their right mind to block anything and everything related to the US, but until a VPN is not legal or enforced against, all right, let them block it, and you just access it from Britain. Instead of using US DeFi, you're going to use British DeFi. The need for a VPN to so you could block U.S. people, and the U.S. people just access it from British territory, or pick a country that has VPN support. No, it's not even working around. It's just pathetic at this point. The perspective, the shallowness of these septuagenarians, octogenarians, 70 and 80-year-olds that just don't have any perspective on innovation and moving forward. And yay, regulate shit. This is the stupidest regulation regime process that I can imagine. Look, I'm I could sit here and think from a regulatory standpoint the things that we probably need and should have, and rules that we should follow, and guidelines that we should encourage, and guidelines that we should enforce. Yet this is the shit that these old, should be retired people are thinking of? I would love to sit down and actually have a conversation about what regulation should we have? Or maybe I wouldn't really love to do that, but the fact is, my type of mindset, a rational mindset, you can conceive of things that we probably should be standardizing to make it safer for people that are not psychologically qualified to manage their own money, to help them lose less so they can manage their money better. Rules of the road. But that's not the type of regulation these people can process. Something is wrong. Something is wrong with them. I don't fully understand it. Is it really the case that they're just financed, lobbied by such powerful actors that they're unable to have that kind of conversation? It's clearly, you know, Gary has Hester, and Hester is quite rational and reasonable. So, what is his malfunction? Is someone telling him to uh, for him to have the perspective on these markets in such an awkward way? What is to account for this awkward approach to his job? Why is it so weird? It doesn't make any sense to me. Is it really just the status quo defending itself? Ay, ay, ay. Gasika, one curious view. Tony, too much. Why hasn't mining seen a direction in crypto? Mining seem to be a direction in crypto you went into. So mining is traditional enterprise. It's capitalism at its purest form. You deploy X amount of capital, you're able to produce X amount of coin per week and sell it per week. It's input versus output. Um, I mean, it's literally like folks. I don't understand the whole lack of Bitcoin attack surface. If somebody wanted to attack Bitcoin, you just set up $1 billion worth of miners and you get a deal with a local nuclear power authority, and you sell your Bitcoin. It's an enterprise. It's a business. So it's literally pay to play. Bitcoin is pay to play in the enterprise. You buy equipment, you buy power, you mine coin, you sell coin. As long as output is greater than input, you have a profitable business. Pay to play. So the attack surface on Bitcoin is extraordinary, especially for a country. Especially for a country that has access to natural resources or can legally access nuclear material and facilities that have been built to convert very long-lasting nuclear material into electricity, the resource required for mining purposes. The attack surface on mineable coins is extraordinary. For myself, well, it's not a viable enterprise. All enterprise reduces to ROI. All enterprise, every business you buy a multifamily home, you buy a rental property. It's what are you getting? 4%, 3% APR. Every business, you own a convenience store, you own a gas station. You put in X amount of capital. How much money APR are you making per year? It doesn't matter the business. It all reduces to an ROI over, annualized, and you could represent that in terms of an APR. And that's why hedge funds and banks and various different types of companies package U.S. securities, treasuries, municipal bonds, all sorts of instruments in terms of return on investment. You make a deposit, you're going to get X amount of return per year that can be talked about in terms of an APR. So it's not a very lucrative industry. It requires too much work. And I've identified over the years digital enterprise that has no overhead, no work required, that I think it will be productive into the future to a greater degree than almost any enterprise I've ever seen. I think the enterprises that I've chosen are by far the most rational capital allocation I could have ever made. Now, we'll go back to the narratives of like a Chris Black, and he's spot on. There isn't very much that's investable from a risk-adjusted perspective in the crypto markets. Most of it is not acceptable risk exposure. You can go out on the risk curve, in which I do with smaller parts of the portfolio, but I don't trust anyone. I don't trust people. I don't trust humans. I especially don't trust developers with regard to not just their intentions and motivations from a personal standpoint to not act in accordance with the overall desire of the community, but also from just their skill set and qualifications. So this all reduces the core component of my investment thesis to immutability. You're either going to get that shit right, bro, as in a person or a team. You're either going to get that shit right on the first shot and deploy, and it's never, ever, ever going to be changeable, or I'm not interested. I don't have time for someone, you're going to continue development. That's not what I want. That's not what I want for an investment. And then the SEC, or is it the White House article about stablecoin regulation? They're like, okay, so they literally talked about curve and its immutability, and they're like, all right, so they're going to have to, roll back the chain and rewrite the contracts on Ethereum mainnet for a couple of $1 billion. These sick fucks. What kind of sick person thought that was the viable course of action? And if you can't do that, you shut down operations. You can't start or stop. You can't shut down operations. There is no U.S. operation. None of this is in the U.S. None of this is in Britain. None of this is in Australia. None of the immutable contracts are executing in any country. They're executing in all countries simultaneously. That's what the EVM is. That's the whole point. That's why it's innovative. That's why it's interesting. It's not a U.S. system. You are investing not in the U.S. You are not allocating capital to a U.S. market. Say it with me. Say it with me now. You sick fuck said we're going to expect them to roll back the chain, to change the code, to be compliant with U.S. regulations for a DeFi piece of software that's not executing in the U.S., that's not a company. And the people don't live in the U.S., so they're literally not even U.S. citizens. Which country? It's not in the U.S. What a joke. It is so much. Listen, can you imagine like the SEC's position is, oh, yeah, you definitely have to roll back the chain to become compliant. And they didn't even mention in the documentation, like, why wouldn't these protocols, these AMMs, these exchanges, just ban U.S. citizens? Why would the SEC not be like, all right, or you could block U.S. citizens and not service U.S. customers? Meanwhile, us in the U.S. understand that the SEC is a regulating authority. It's not, criminal justice. It's not the DOJ. It's like, all right, we're just going to use a VPN and access this software from Britain or Australia. Say, I'm going to use this software. I don't give a shit about your regulations and compliance. I know the software. I did my due diligence. I know what I'm engaging with. I know what I own. I don't need your blessing. I don't need your risk evaluation. No interest in your opinion about the software. I execute my own due diligence. I trust my risk assessment rather than yours from your age group and your experience and skill set, your qualifications. I have no need for your qualifications in the way I engage with markets or the way I respond to information that I am exposed to. I don't need Gary's opinion or any expertise that he could potentially offer. It is not needed by me. Fuck off my investments. Gazika, Tapsy, Dan, your tweet, Paul, was my favorite tweet of yours ever. What kind of DeFi are you working with? What's your favorite? I like DeFi in the Philippines. You know what I really like? I like DeFi in the Bahamas. Turks and Caicos, baby. If you've been to Turks, that's the place to DeFi. Turks and Caicos, right on the beach. Maybe encryption police will be a thing. VPNs. Well, okay, now you're talking a little draconian. It's getting a little dark, and now you're right, and we must consider that. But what's to consider? What are they going to get the DOJ involved and start attacking U.S. citizens for engaging in financial activities that aren't to the desire of the regulators? But end-to-end encryption, what are they going to do? End-to-end encryption, how are they going to monitor your activity? There's a whole, we'll engage with these types of considerations as time goes on, but that'll be pretty dark time for a country if they literally try and prevent citizens' behavior of a financial nature. Like, you're not allowed to engage in that financial activity. As in, you can't transfer currency to this country. I mean, it's not a country. It's software in cyberspace. They can't be shut down unless you're retarded enough to think someone's going to buy $10 billion worth of Ethereum to break it. We're dealing with the most idiotic logic are these regulators and also Bitcoin maxis and their distaste for Ethereum and yeah, I appreciate the distaste for fiat currencies, but I know this for a fact. I I brought in the largest amount of capital into the crypto markets in 2019. And if I did a Bitcoin maxi thing where it's like, oh, I'm going to buy Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's the only thing that's legit, and Bitcoin's the only thing that's going to make it, and everything else is going to get shut down, everything else could be turned off. And if I put my money into Bitcoin, I would have fucked up my financial future. How's that for Bitcoin? Instead, I chose to dig into enterprise and speculate that there was something interesting and speculate that the world is a place where you can engage in products and offer services to people, and there is a new world emerging where there's new opportunities for new types of work and new types of productivity, and a market that's global, that's not of a specific country, it's of all countries. Hey, hey, hey. Invest in Bitcoin and save your money. If I did that, I would have fucked up my financial future, period. So there you go. Maximalism is a pretty disgusting thing. Noah, have you researched CASPA, useful proof of work? I'm not too interested in proof of work. I think the biggest argument against proof of stake that maximalists have is that you could buy a seat at the table. It's exactly what you could do with all proof of work. You just buy the equipment. You buy enough equipment, you're going to have a shitload of exposure to the asset, or you just buy the asset. There's no voting, there's no governance, so what's the point? It's the scary reality is there's such a relatively large concentration of Bitcoin ownership that, I mean, Saylor could create the banking infrastructure. He could run, like a pseudo central bank or some sort of IMF type operation with the quantity that he controls, because he could garner other people to allocate capital and lend capital, Bitcoin denominated, and he can exert significant control over this particular financial market, the Bitcoin financial market. So there's all the avenues of thought, the wasted energy supporting just a homogeneous world where one thing is the solution to everything has such religious overtones. It's disappointing. Everyone has different opinions. It's a diverse world, and there's plenty of ways to express yourself. And to hate on the way someone else expresses themselves financially is not reasonable. Shit coins. No, how about enterprise and federation and governance where you can participate and people pay you for your voting weight? That's meaningful. Politicians have been doing that for years. They're paid for their voting weight. And now we, as have access to that mechanism, that's interesting. That's something new. And new isn't fucking boring, because everything these old fucks try to shove down our throat with regard to financial products and services is fucking boring shit. Go back to work for $10 an hour and deposit your money in a savings account so the bank can buy fucking bonds and make a spread. Boring shit that gets people nowhere. No, let's have these conversations. Let's have these interesting conversations. Software developers are some of the most creative people on the planet. It's like, because it's like poetry, it's mathematics. That's why the internet is what it is, and that's why this software does what it does and offers people these activities that we can engage with because of what software developers can conceive of from a UI UX perspective, from a data management perspective. And data includes photos and videos and sharing and data transmission and all the shit that we know and love in our modern day applications. And we had the balls over the last couple of years to expose developers to financial products and services like they're working at a bank, a fintech company in Silicon Valley, working down on Wall Street, down in the basement of a bank with the computers. Ooh, the nerds with the computers. And now it's all public on the damn internet. But it's not just the internet. It's an internet that has servers not in a particular country. It's an internet that has servers in every country. So it's not like you're engaging with a relatively centralized, moderately decentralized DNS infrastructure that finds the IP address of the server. No, it's a network of networks. It's such a remarkable thing, because most the people engaging with these markets kind of just see the internet, but it's not just the internet. They don't know and understand how DNS works. They don't know and understand how servers work. Sure, you can have distributed hosting and fallback infrastructure and cloud computing and all the shit that Web 2 does, but it's not as interesting as what has been created in real DeFi and what the EVM is from a distributed execution of code on not just one server, but all servers across countless geographical locations. That's fucking cool. There's some cool stuff. And all of it's reduced to the bullshit argumentative narratives offered by regulators. What a shame. Ding ding, kill us. Is there any access to the contract for SBEL and Etherscan or something? Just use a VPN. Use a NordVPN and go on the website. And of course you can access the contracts directly. You have to find out which contract it is, and you go to Etherscan and you can engage directly with the contracts, but just use the website. I know I've heard you mention to access the smart contracts. I would love a way where anyone could spin up, a Web3 user interface, which is basically like React or some shit, and it's just engaging with the Ethereum React library and executing commands against an RPC, which you probably have configured locally with a MetaMask or a frame, and that's how the React injects access to the blockchain. So, just use a damn VPN. Nothing wrong with a VPN. It's really weird, Paul. He's really weird. Like, and there's some of the politicians are competent and they could talk and speak. I'm not a fan of representative politics. I don't want someone representing me. I don't need someone to represent me. I have a full capacity to articulate my opinion and respond to very intricate questions, no matter how sensitive the subject. So I'm not a fan of representative politics. Not a fan of our government the way it's structured. Now I understand that's a whole political conversation about what is a good structure for a government. Now I don't really want to get into that shit, and I don't really want to care about it. I'll let other folks deal with it, and I do the best for myself, my family, and my community at this point. What is his malfunction? What is his malfunction? How crazy is the shit that comes out of his mouth, his office, and other politicians that think like him? What the fuck is wrong with these people? We are being too kind. It's an agenda. It's geared to help their buddies. First priority is not protecting. There's no protection. I don't need protection. I don't need opinion. What I need is access to information. What I need is a capacity to do due diligence. I need time. I need freedoms like that so I can do things that are in my best interest, professionally, politically, economically, and that's what's best for me. I need lack of restriction. I need freedoms, and I don't need protection. Leave me alone, Gensler. I don't need you. I don't need any of these stupid rules and regulations. What I need is banking infrastructure to work. How about you unfuck that up with what you and your buddies at the Fed did? The balance sheets are not so comfortable, especially with Apple coming out with 4.25%. You think the general public is going to be hesitant to move their capital from regional banks over to Apple? I'm pretty sure they trust Apple more. There's going to be a lot of capital outflow going towards Apple, probably to the tune of billions of dollars. So I think the folks are going to be pretty busy in these regulator offices trying to keep the traditional financial system functioning. So do me a fucking favor and keep that shit functioning. Nobody's really in the mood for post-apocalyptic considerations at this point. Go figure out your traditional finance and keep that little tinker toy you built over the last 100 years running so he could get egg sandwiches at the damn supermarket. Fucking Gensler. Oh, and Powell. Jesus. They're so old. Where's the ideas? Where's the interesting people that are saying things that are actually like, oh shit, I can't believe the politician actually said that. Where's the interesting people instead of the old people? Listen, I'm 40 years old. I grew up, I remember 16, 18, 20, 20, whatever, listening to parents and old people talk. I'm 40 years old and I'm still listening to these old fucks trying to tell me how to run my life and the decisions that I need to make. When do I get to grow up? When do I get to grow up and make my own decisions? Old people still trying to jam their opinion down the throat of younger people. I'm 40 and still to this day they're trying to jam their shit down my throat. Thanks, Gensler. Thank you. No, I don't need my father. I don't need you to try and be my father. I don't need more daddy time in my life. I need freedom. I need to be an adult. I need to make my own decisions. Okay? I'm a big boy now. Paul, Noah, were you always mathematically minded? You see, you have a very broad capability to understand economics as well as programming. Wondering if this was always a natural strength. I went to school for electrical engineering. I took so many damn math courses. Do you think I remember anything from my education? Not really. I know enough math to do my software, my logic operations at a relatively high level of programming in Kotlin on Android. I know enough to converse with ChatGPT to get the answers to questions I may have in the coming 5, 10 decades so I could actually maintain productivity and have some sort of employment. Have I always been this mathematical? I have always been a reductionist. I have always been quantitative. I always have been granular in the way I think, breaking things down to their discrete components to digest the the layers of things, the causality, cause and effect. This happens, that's going to happen, that's probably going to happen, that may happen. And that's odds. You want the odds to be in your favor, and you want predictability. I mean, it's like my employment. Everyone is, it's like, what happens if you lose your job? Are you prepared if you lose your job? You should be. That's something I've thought about my entire professional career. You can't buy things if you're afraid you're going to lose your job. You can buy things. You can have some debt exposure, but you got to be prepared. Consequences, causality. I've taken on risk over the years. At one point, I had two contracts, and I was literally laid off of both contracts the same week. And I was, holy shit! I handled it pretty well. Was it emotional? Fuck yeah. Was it catastrophic? No. Was I prepared? Not really, but it wasn't that bad because I am always prepared. Always be prepared. Always think of consequences. Now, bear in mind that that word unto itself is what has gotten the general public in so many countries all fucked up. People don't understand consequences. I mean, come on, isn't that the age the the age old problem with kids? They don't understand the consequences of their actions, the repercussions, the causality. So, yeah, maybe I've always been this fucked up in the head, Paul. Tabsy, did you say bro as in a person? Probably. Sir Joe present and here, kill us. Hey, Gary gave us a strategy. Save your $5. Spend for, Gary, you can't, shouldn't he be preparing at least for a retirement and home or something, like a nice little old little community, 55 and above in Florida. I mean, that's where I live, and that's where you retire, 55 and above. You got a nice golf course, you get a little golf cart downstairs, you got the clubhouse, you can play dominoes and shit. Get the fuck out of the SEC. We don't need more old people telling younger people their restrictions, their expected behaviors. And dare we head into a world where you have financial controls that say whether, ooh, you can do this or you can do that. And it's so silly. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe the population is too stupid to operate unto themselves. Maybe the population is not controllable, and it's filled with mostly people that need to be controlled, and that really would be a shame. I would love to think that the general public can govern themselves and actually come together and be mature and grow up and not be violent. But in the end, I may be completely fucking wrong, where the general public is just a bunch of toddlers and they'll go around pissing on each other. I go, oh, you doing good? And then, oh, give me your money, because that seems to be what's happening in the good parts of the country. Is all violent crime and robbery. It's not people trying to understand the system, to do better, to excel, to find a job, to convince someone else to give you money, because that's what employment is. You're like, I could do that for you, so give me some money because you can't do that shit by yourself. You realize if you don't pay me, you're not going to get it done because you can't do shit. So pay me the money because I could do it. You can't do it. I could do it. So that's what employment is. You realize that? So you would think that the general public would be like, all right, I probably should get some education to figure out how to do shit that other people can't do. So they'll pay me because they can't do it and I know how to do it. I get myself worked up. But unfortunately, I don't think maybe the general public knows that. I don't think the general public understands. They think they have to go to a school to learn all these things. And what I've learned over the last couple of years, my entire professional career was built on Google.com, where I Googled things to learn, and then you could actually learn things by asking questions. I mean, go fucking figure. You could actually ask questions to learn things. You don't have to pay some schmuck in college to teach you how to learn things. You could go on Google and you could be like, all right, how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I want to do this? Oh, what kind of shit do I need to know for this career to actually do better in my life, to be more productive, to learn about financial investments and how do I structure money and what is this macroeconomic shit this guy Noah keeps talking about? There's a fucking Google search. Nowadays, this is a damn chat GPT that not only gives you an answer to the question, it gives you paragraph after paragraph of an answer. Wow, today is one big rant. I swear I'm not an angry person. Loki, hell yeah, Noah, great to hear you talking about this. Gensler and Co. are mad to push these industries offshore. Why are they doing it? Why would you push it offshore? Frankly, I don't even really give a shit. I mean, the industry, I feel bad for like a Bittrex. It's an old school name, but who gives a fuck about a centralized exchange? What I'm interested in is obviously enterprise that doesn't have any shore. There is no shore. It's not a U.S. company. Oh my God! I literally, it's Zoolander. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. This has nothing to do with the U.S. And they're like, oh, we're going to regulate it in the U.S. I'm like, what are you talking about, you sick old people? You're not regulating shit. It's not a U.S. company. It's not U.S. people. It's literally software in cyberspace. They're so old they can't wrap their mind around it. And they're like, I got to jam this idea into this box that I can barely understand because I can't figure out the difference between Bing and Google after 20 years. They're so old. Put out fire extinguishers, not Fire. Xerox. I don't know where you're heading with it, but I like it. Killis, Brian Brooks was the same one. He was a wonderful speaker, clear, concise ideas, and there's a lot. There's a Caitlin Long, and they have wonderful ideas, and I love the people that are smart. The Bitcoin folks that are actually smart, and they're not religious. I'm not fond of one solution. I'm a fond of letting people have ideas. There's a lot of smart people in the Bitcoin community, and there's also a lot of religious people that just only like their religion and everyone else could fuck off and die, because that's a very common theme in religion. That's a very honest observation, and I don't think like that. There's things about Bitcoin that are meaningful. I call it transitory money, because no one in their right mind is going to spend their money when you could buy less egg sandwiches. So that means you can only spend your Bitcoin money when you can buy more egg sandwiches, which is cyclical. It's cyclical. Every couple of years, you can buy more egg sandwiches. Great. So Bitcoin's cool. It's transitory money. It's cyclical money. So that has a role. At least I could tell you guys my ideas. Nobody else, not many other people care about my ideas. So I thank you for listening to my ideas over the years. Drew, what do you mean which DeFi? There's so many DeFis, Drew. I mean, you got US DeFi, you got British DeFi, you got Hong Kong DeFi, South African DeFi. No, there's no geographic location for DeFi. DeFi is everywhere, yet nowhere. It's executed in every country simultaneously on the EVM, the magical EVM that has no jurisdiction. It's everywhere, yet nowhere. One curious view, ChatGPT has completely eliminated the education process. Google eliminated the education process in 20 whatever. My entire professional career as an Android software engineer working for American Express, Royal Caribbean, Universal Studios. I've worked at Facebook. I've worked at Microsoft. I have no institutional education in software engineering. I learned how to program from google.com. google.com. Press the enter button in the search bar. How do I write an Android application? I did that shit in 2009, maybe late 2008, give or take. I don't know, something like that. I wrote, I wrote those words into Google, and I got web pages back, and I started to program. I learned by asking a question, you get an answer, and then I asked another question, and then I got another answer. And now comes ChatGPT, where I can ask a question and I get a fucking encyclopedia back. I spent years Google searching, asking questions, and ChatGPT would have turned it into weeks. Changes everything. Everyone strap on a pair, ask some goddamn questions to ChatGPT, and learn something new. Learn something every day. Be productive for yourself. And then, and only then, once you're good to yourself, can you help other people. Like me talking to you. I help other people because I've done good things for myself. Killis, this is a good one. This is me really venting a lot of frustrations I got going on in today's society. And, in the end, hopefully other people think like me and we can make better decisions and do well for ourselves and our family, because these cycles are going to happen whether we understand them, care about them, or surf them and we ride the waves or not. These cycles are going to happen. The Fed's going to Fed. The SEC is going to do whatever shit they do over there, whatever, funny recreational drugs they're taking over there, and how they think, I don't know, how Gensler still thinks he's like a daddy or something. And he's like, I got to protect these little people, they might make bad financial decisions and spend too much money on the credit card. I don't know. What a ridiculous credit situation. How does this? Where's the parents? Where's the parents? Who the hell spends too much money on a credit card? I don't understand that. I never did. Because you know why? I was 16 years old. My mother never told me shit about finances. I was like, holy fuck, I shouldn't spend money I don't have. I thought that was a good idea. I got a couple bucks in the bank account. That's what I could spend. I shouldn't go out and spend 10 grand. If I only have 1,000 in the bank account, I might have been the stupid one, and I thought that was a good idea. I thought I should actually save up, and if I wanted my money in my bank account to go up, I should be like, oh fuck, maybe I shouldn't go out tonight. Oh, that sucks. It's pretty miserable because I spent a lot of miserable days at home. I used to live in Port Washington a lifetime ago, North Shore, Long Island. A small, small house, relatively. It was modest, not even middle class home at that time, run down, and I was like, it was pretty quiet. It was boring, and I did what it, maybe I didn't even know it at the time, and I did what Munger said: is do what you got to do to get to that first 100K. And I didn't know who the fuck Munger was back then, but I guess I did it because I remember moving out of my parents' home with about 122, and I put a down payment, and I got a mortgage on an apartment. First mortgage, 222 and change was my first apartment. I don't even remember. This must have been 2014ish, give or take. My mortgage payment was like 800 bucks a month. I didn't know how the fuck I was going to pay that mortgage payment. I had to figure out all that stuff. But I made good decisions over the years. Try and make better decisions. That's my message. You can always do better. Stop. Stop whatever you're going to do, whatever you're going to spend, and just think. Ask a question to somebody, anyone. Just don't ask the stupid friend. Don't ask the friend that has 100 grand in credit card debt. Ask someone smart. And if you don't have someone smart, ask ChatGPT. And if you, why don't you have access to ChatGPT? Ask Google and find the forum, find the community, find people that have answers to questions. And together we could maybe do a little bit better. And that's why I talk to you guys, so I could, vent a little bit and help you guys do a little bit better. Anyway, today was just a whole stream of venting. I'm sorry. I got the DXY up on the screen. I mean, does anyone give a shit at this point? I'm looking at the DXY. I got two. We're going to be staring at this chart for the next 2 months, and it's this one candle right here. You see the one candle at the end? There's another 2 months left in this chart. And there's one candle of this chart. So I'm tired of this intraday bullshit. People are going to drive themselves nuts. I say over the next 5, 10, 15 years, the dollar's going to go down. Why? Because the damn chart says it's going to go down. It's a blow off top. That is a shooting star of a shooting star. The last time we saw a shooting star like that was 1985. So stop looking at the daily chart and find cheap prices for assets that pay you a good APR. That's good enterprise. Because real estate sucks. You get what, 4%, 3%? You might as well buy a damn treasury. Treasury is a better business than real estate at this point. Period. Inarguable. Quantitative. It's mathematical. And there's some maybe interesting things in the stock market, but I don't want exposure to humans. I think humans are stupid. I don't want anything to deal with a board of directors and human resources and the software. The software, there's no people, there's no nothing, there's no opinion. It's just working 24/7, cranking out cash flow and disintermediating the cash flow. This is such a good opportunity. Just don't get sucked up on stupid shit coins. Don't get riled up with shit coins. Focus on the real enterprise. And trade if you want to learn the technical analysis. How's Curve doing? About to push the TWAP on the daily. Why am I looking at the daily? I'm going to drive myself nuts. Lovely. Plenty of room on the weekly TWAP. Structurally looks good. Solid inverse head and shoulders. Looks lovely. Lovely chart. Drive myself nuts looking on the weekly. Let's look at the monthly. 13 days, 2 weeks left for the monthly close. See if it pushes back above the 10 SMA. Still got an inverse head and shoulders, a little bit lopsided in the favorable direction. Needs to push above the monthly TWAP, and then we'll start to see some nice appreciation. Bear in mind the monthly TWAP is at $1.22. I'm pretty sure everyone who has had exposure to curve over the years will be very smiley when we see a $1.22 print. And then it bounces and it's running $1.60, $1.80, 210. It'd be nice when it gets back to those numbers. Give it time. There's no rush. Ladies and gentlemen, let's wrap it up for the day. 24 people still in the stream, 10 likes. Hit those thumbs up buttons. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of you. Monday, April 17th at 12:20 p.m. Tell everyone to subscribe. After party on Discord for the most rational community in the entire crypto space. I wish you all a good one. Be safe, be rational. I will see you again at the end of the week. Peace.